What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's Huddle. We come at you every Tuesday to discuss maintaining forward progress in your flooring career. Really, I say this every week. It's really, most of this is applicable to any business, but flooring's what we're in and what we care about deeply. So we're here to help. Hopefully we get some participation this week. Little bit of comments or questions, but kind of to round out some of the topics we've had previously, we're going to be talking about things that have really changed the industry this huddle. So join me as always, Mr. Daniel and Jose. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for always being here.
Thanks for having us.
So this week, it may not exactly, mean what the title may not resonate exactly, but let me break it down. I figure there's some, pretty big changes that happened in the industry. Bring up some of those. There's been huge product changes, and as well as some reputation or overall just being a floor contractor or a floor installer change. So what I mean by that is, so from an industry standpoint, and I'll look up at my board here and there because I took some notes, subcontracting, so subcontract installers, they've been around for decades and decades and decades. However, they really took hold and started gaining, more attention, meaning flooring contractors or flooring companies started using subcontract labor really heavy in the 90s and all the way through the 2000s to today. I've quoted this before, but depending on which study you read, up to 87% of all flooring nationwide is installed by independent subcontract installers. So that's a huge change, because you went from employee installers, paid by the hour or sometimes still by the piece. But the point was they were employees under the control of a company. So what that means is the company would make sure that they had the highest trained employees, right? I mean, you wanted the best installers, you sent them to training. And then you had an apprenticeship or a training program within your company. And those apprentice programs and training programs, you were able to bring in new blood, get the new blood with the old blood, having a 4-year apprentice program for them, and then produce another installer on the backside of that. Once the subcontract storm came, now the subs are responsible to get themselves trained, to make sure they're up to date on product knowledge and all that stuff. So that's a big dynamic change. I'm not, voting one way or the other. I think there's a good case to be made for subcontractors and a good case to be made for employees. I don't think it's either or. I think it's both. But it was certainly when more work started getting done by third party installers, subcontractors versus employees. I think that's a pretty major change that also impacted the way we train our installers versus employee trained installers and subcontractors. Obviously that had a big impact. Talked a little bit about labor shortage, aging out of the installer. That's more today's problem. I mean, it's been a problem for a lot of years, but the pimples just turned white.
really feeling it now, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's like
pimples just turned white though.
now's when the problem's here. So I guess we can discuss this a bit, but is it too little too late? I know a lot of people are doing a lot of stuff in our industry trying to solve this problem, but no offense to anybody working on this problem, but it feels like we're behind the curve. Like this type of effort by the manufacturers and the industry maybe should have, and when I say this type of effort, the money and the focus on solving this problem probably should have been, 15 years ago. as opposed to, the last 5 years, just my opinion. Then I had some product stuff, large format tile, for example. I remember in 95 when I first started, the biggest tile you'd see is an 18 by 18 tile. Like, there were probably bigger ones, but in general, 12 by 12 and 18 by 18 being the biggest. Now we have gauged porcelain panels that are 4 foot by 10 foot. So that changed for everything from the tooling to the training to site conditions, the whole deal. Water soluble adhesives. And, when the EPA took our solvents out, if you've been around long enough, you've had some failures from that. I certainly did. That the chemical industry, to me, just over the last 3 or 4 years, has really started making great adhesives again. It took a long time to get the solvents out and formulate something that's water soluble that can still perform on concrete that has water in it. So, and then the new arrival of LVT, 15 years ago or so. Amtico was about maybe 20 years ago, but
yeah, Amtico were that was it.
Man,
yeah, it's pretty much Amtico. And now everybody and their brother makes an LVT. So, and such a large percentage of the flooring installed today from a square foot standpoint is LVT. It's replaced a lot of tile where typically tile would go, or hardwood. So yeah. And then floating floors in the commercial arena. Wilson Art used to make a laminate floor with a plastic core for the commercial world back in the late 90s, early 2000s time frame. And they quit doing that and had a lot of problems with it. And now, it's pretty commonplace to have a click floor in a commercial building if it's the right conditions. So anyway, last kind of topic within this overarching topic was our reputation and image as a flooring installer versus I've heard Mark with the NTCA talk about these glory days back in the 30s or 40s or 50s or whatever time frame when we were highly respected when we walked on job sites. I seen some old photos he shared of guys like dressed to like for construction. They were dressed to the tens. They had the tie. I mean, they had like a work suit on. It was pretty interesting. But
bringing it back. We should bring it back.
Let's bring it back. Bring back the work suit.
Why not?
But point being, back then, it was a respected trade. I feel like, some of that got lost. I know that all of us here, and probably anybody even tuning into this huddle, would love to see not only participate in making that change back, at least in some degree, get back to that respect and the understanding that we're skilled tradesmen and it takes a lot of effort, a lot of knowledge, a lot of training, a lot of skill to effectively do this business. So that's kind of the overarching thought process I had here. What are your guys' thoughts on industry, subcontract, anything else that you guys can think of that really brought major change to the industry? And what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I wrote down a couple of things right here too. It's like one of them was before my time, right? When everything kind of hit or around that time. But I wrote down a couple of categories. I got health, tools, materials, and image, kind of what we kind of talked about a little bit there. But the one that hit us personally since we started was like when silica, when those standards came out and everything switched over, we kind of got a little bit of a taste of what the generations before us might have had with asbestos. We kind of got hit with a take care of it or else we will kind of thing.
That's a good point. Yeah, that silica thing came on like a friggin' hurricane.
Yeah, we were not in a good spot at that time, I guess, but we made it happen and we went and made those changes, and we actually made a lot of changes before everybody else did, and everyone around the area kind of followed suit. I mean, we didn't intentionally do that, but we started making every contractor aware that we were 100% silica compliant. Daniel went above and beyond to make sure we have the documents, the paperwork, like everything that our government was requiring of us at that time. And now it's just standard practice. So
Yeah. Yeah, that silica thing was tough. We were behind the curve for sure. I didn't know how serious it was, if I'm honest. When it came out and you hear all the talking, I thought, it's just all these major tool manufacturers trying to sell more tools, some different thing.
Same thing. We were like, whatever.
We breathe dust every day, right?
Yeah.
One of those people, and then you actually learn about it. It's like, you got to change your mindset. It's not like I've already done this and I'm fine. It's I need to protect everyone that's working here and that on the job site. So we have to do it.
Yeah. Once you read into it, you realize there is some damage that stuff can do, and protecting you and your employees and other job site workers or what have you is the responsible thing to do. But I would be lying if at the beginning I didn't call bullshit.
I'm not scared.
We do a lot of hospital work too, so it's like always talking to infection control, and you don't realize the numbers of how many people actually get sick or die just because there's dust that you're kicking up.
Just the particulate that's in the air. Yeah, it was a little bit easier for us to justify it, right? But
did you guys actually talk to medical professionals at the hospital in that regard, or was it just
at one of the hospitals we work for? Infection control is there every single job. She comes by every single day, so we talk to her quite a bit.
Yeah, she's been happy with us. She's been upset with us. We've been on both sides of that coin, but it's hard to be perfect all the time. So accidents happen, and sometimes you don't think about construction for 2 weeks in an area and how much dust is going to get out there. Even if you are using the systems, it's not 100% foolproof. But
I like the way you can kind of compare it to asbestos, maybe not to the same degree, but it's both of those were major industry. I'm glad you brought that up, because I mean, asbestos is a wonderful building material. Unfortunately, it causes cancer, right? And documented as such. I think it's the mesothelioma that it type of cancer that it actually causes, right? Pretty big industry change. We used a lot of asbestos, particularly in the VCT, and it was just VA tile back then, but the adhesive too, and a lot of people don't realize that the tile is the least of your concern from a
adhesive
particulate. The adhesive is the bigger piece. There's more of it in there, and it's easier to become friable or to get up in the air. But interesting. What about products? What's your top, few, like, either headaches you've experienced? I gotta think adhesives is on that list, but what other product changes has just caused, either great change, meaning change in a good manner, or just has been a tough one to deal with?
Here's what my thoughts, right? Carpet tile. It is great, but horrible at the same time, because they think that anyone can just go and install it. But they don't realize that you have to treat it like a resilient, because there's that backing on there. The moisture has nowhere to go, like broadloom.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't treat it like that, you're already setting yourself up for failure.
I would add recycled content to the conversation as well.
Yeah,
because the recycled content and the backings of the carpet tiles caused more personal pain for me, because what would happen and has happened is, we have a rule basically that you remove we lay on concrete. So basically what that means, you go in, tear a broadloom carpet or tear up old carpet tile and you're putting down new. We don't just go over what's there. We get back down to concrete. We install on concrete. That's our desire. Now, sometimes budgets, different things, you got to, get creative, do some skim coating, maybe some removal, whatever, to meet with the client's budget. But in general, we want to install on concrete. We have had in the past project managers who, regardless of that being our kind of company mantra, if they pulled up on a particular project, this happened, they pulled up carpet tile and it had pressure sensitive over old broadloom. Now this carpet tile performed just fine. So he thought, hey, it's fine. We'll just put our carpet tile right back on. Glue's still sticky, no problem. 2,600 yards, completely failed. Completely failed. It curled like crazy everywhere.
So that's when I noticed the change in everything, right?
And that was the recycled backing, the recycled portion of that backing. Like carpet tile is not carpet tile is not carpet tile. That each manufacturer has their own rules. And this particular manufacturer, which I will not mention, but the recycled content in their backing requires, like, you got to get the glue off, you got to prime the residue, and then you can install their carpet tile. It's very susceptible to take on and soak up any chemicals that got left in that old adhesive. And that's exactly what it did. You could pull up a piece and look at the backing and you'd see dark spots. Yeah. And it was a lighter colored backing. So it wasn't PVC. So there was no plasticizer migration or anything like that. It was just, it soaked up something out of that old adhesive and it turned the backing dark, not black, but just dark in spots all over it. And it curled like crazy. And, obviously that's a tough lesson to learn, but that is recycled content in flooring products. You got to deal with those a little bit different, and you really understand what you're dealing with. Means reading the installation instructions for each product.
And they make it easy now too, because if you have a lot of affiliations, like, get a lot of emails on new technology now, like staying in the loop. Back in the day, there was none of that. It was read the bucket, and they would just, and even if the technology changed, the distributor was still getting rid of all their old adhesives with the new materials. So, I mean, in essence, you were set up to fail, but if you weren't paying attention to the specs, then.
Well, like you said, you're still giving old adhesive, right? And that's something that a lot of people don't take into consideration too, is the formulation of adhesive changes over time. And then a lot of people just are like, oh, there's pressure sensitive already down, just go right over it. And then they got systems out there now for stuff like that too, because so many failures.
Well, the old adhesive, just like you just said, but just to drive the point home, just because it's pressure sensitive doesn't mean that it works for another product that requires pressure sensitive. That adhesive, if you're replacing it, that, for example, on this job, the carpet tile was 10 years old. Who knows what that adhesive was? Who knows how it was formulated? You can't just say, yeah, it's still sticky, let's put new product over it. So yeah, that was another big change. And the water soluble adhesives part, the perfect storm when all that started happening is they also came out with unitary backed carpet.
Oh, my favorite, to rip off stairs.
Remember that? How terrible was that, right? Unitary back glue down. You had to use a special notch trowel that put so much glue down that putting seams together on broadloom was a nightmare to keep the glue from squirting between the seams. And
you didn't roll it. You can see, look like ripples across the
they quit making it because that came along right about the same time as when they started taking the solvents out of the glue. So the glue was less sticky and they were producing a product that required more adhesion. So you have less adhesion in the adhesives being produced and a product that requires more adhesion. And I've torn up so much of what we did, and I hate to say it, but it just bubbled. like it would look good. You'd roll it, you'd put the right amount of adhesive down, and in a few years it starts bubbling. Well, they have to hot water extract it. That's one of the main recommended methods of taking care of your carpet. What happens when you have a crappy water soluble adhesive? Today's water soluble adhesives are far superior than when I'm talking like 96 ish time frame. You got a crappy water soluble adhesive and you're doing hot water extraction. That's not a good mix. So all that was that really did change the carpet side of the industry a lot. And then LVT.
LVT, the same thing with that one. Like we said, Amtico, right? We're installing a bunch of Amtico, and what do? You hate the wet set adhesive. So what do? They come out with pressure sensitive. And then you start using it everywhere. And then stuff starts shrinking. And then you realize years later, man, that wet set adhesive sure looked good right about now.
Yeah, kind of locked it in a little bit better. Plus, you know, Amtico made a great product, and they still do. Like, it's still one of my favorite LVTs. But because LVT blew up so much, there's LVT you can buy for 50 cents, you know, and it's a 6 mil or less wear layer. But you want to talk about shrinkage and curling or cupping, all those problems, you know, that comes because you start bringing in, when a market gets hot, more and more manufacturers start making the product, and it gets made cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And it became a product that was a race to the bottom, whereas Amtico kind of had the markets cornered and really made a high quality product. And frankly, I don't see that they ever changed their kind of staple mainstay product. We've done it a lot, and I've never had it shrink. I've never had problems with it, but there are other manufacturers out there.
There's some Antico around here. So when you talk about how good the adhesive was back then, a few years ago, my grandmother was in a home before she passed, and it just happened to be a home we did the floors in a long time ago. We went there and it stood the test of time. It was still looking good. You know, it was custom borders and all that, and it looked really good for the age. And I was very impressed to not see gaps everywhere. You know?
Yeah, a lot of those products are, and the floating products too, you know, that's another waterproof flooring, you know, the marketing behind all this waterproof flooring is better than what the product itself is. Yeah, if you drop a cup of water on top of the floor, it's waterproof. You get moisture underneath that floor, you'll find out real quick it's not waterproof at all. Like, it's only waterproof from one side. And you got to be cognizant of that. We try to educate our clients on that all the time. And they get frustrated because all the marketing material says that it's waterproof, that it's, you know, the best thing since sliced bread, and that it won't ever fail because of moisture or something. But you read the fine print, and you like we have to install it.
Yep.
You realize quickly that it's not the end all be all for that scenario. I've had plenty of people say, well, in bathroom, just silicone the edge. Yeah, well, you better be perfect. You better be perfect, not have one little pinhole anywhere, because the water will find that pinhole, and it will find its way underneath your flooring, and you will still have the same problem.
I had to find its way underneath anyway. I just had this conversation on the phone a couple of days ago with a client. And it might not have been about the waterproof aspect, but like the warranty. Oh, this is a 10-year lifetime warranty, you know, and they started going on and on. I'm like, you kind of got to read the print a little bit. Like, you know, I'm not a salesman, I'm talking to you as an installer. This is a limited, you know, you're just reading what you want, and it says limited lifetime.
Yeah, read the actual warranty.
Yeah, you said you definitely got to read into it a little bit more than that. If you want the literature, I'll send it to you. But, you know, you have to understand that they can't give everybody lifetime warranty. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in business right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what else? We mentioned image and stuff as well. You know, I mentioned that, you know, back in the day, we were really revered on construction projects, and a lot of times now that's not the case. And like I said, I know that all of us are trying to change that. But where do you think that went wrong? Because it sure seems to correlate to the time frame when we went really heavy subs.
That's
And no offense to subs, like I was a sub, I believe, like that's what Go Carerra is built for. So like there's
Yeah.
no,
we still subcontract. So
yeah,
And,
no negative there. I'm just stating that that was in that time. Now you have a subcontractor crew. You don't send them to go get trained. You don't put them all through training. That's their responsibility. And a lot of them just decided they didn't need to. Now you're several generations into it, and the guy, the first generation of subs were probably fine, and so was second because they learned from these guys that at one point were trained properly. But it seems like it's slowly gotten, it slowly got worse and worse. I Go Carerra's whole purpose is to turn that corner, but then the manufacturers, they're just trying to engineer out talent. They're trying to make flooring products so easy that anybody can do it, and they have not succeeded. They've got a few products I think that are easy enough to install, like your click together flooring, but to do it right and to last that 10 years, you still need a pro. That's my opinion.
I think one of the changes that happened was, I think that the market eventually at one point got flooded with the workforce, right? Like construction in general got flooded. And then, like you said, the training and education kind of got diluted down as generations passed. So people stopped focusing on educating themselves and becoming more of a craftsman than just an installer. And I think that's what happens. It got watered down. It opens the doors up to, let's say, more demographic, more different walks of life in the industry. And as other trades were on the rise with the image and the respect, because they set themselves apart from everyone else, the flooring industry kind of fell behind and just, I don't need a certification to do that floor. I don't need to pass an inspection for this floor, you know, and instead of the industry leaders, as in like manufacturers, the top down setting that standard, they just kind of just let it go.
it's because our stuff only gets inspected if there's something wrong with it.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a good
you
point.
think about the other trades, they're like, all right, I got everything set before we put any drywall up, inspect it. We don't have the same thing, you know, in our industry. So it's a lot easier to cut corners because you can still make something look really good initially. You know, you look at it, oh, it's so beautiful. And then, you know, 2 months later, it's like, well, all this has to come up.
Well, do you guys watch any of the DIY stuff on TV, like home makeover kind of thing?
Yeah,
That's
a little bit like
probably
there's different. There's different ones, but there's a new one out, right? It's like I forget what they call it, but it's basically going back and redoing what like flopped, flipped, like bad flips or something. I can't remember.
I know.
But really, what it boils down to is DIYs did this flip. It looked good while they did it, but now just a short term later, everything's fallen off or having problems. The flooring's failing, all these issues with the plumbing and all the stuff that they did because the industry says it's a DIY thing. It didn't last. It didn't last very long at all. And so there's a whole new show about going in and redoing a flip that a DIY guy did, did on their own. So it's interesting. That's my point, is that we are still needing to be trained, to be certified, to be informed and educated on our products, to install them correctly for long-term performance of that floor.
And that goes with a lot of the new tools, the technology, the information that's out there. Like, there's a lot of things out there to help people get better if they're a DIY, but there's still a lot of things out there for us as an industry to make ourselves better. So we're not losing to DIYers.
Mm-hmm.
They do, like you said, they keep on engineering stuff to be more user or installer friendly to cater to them, and that's why I think we have the market where we have it with the sheet vinyl, the resilient side of it, because there ain't no
You ain't DIYing a flash code job.
There's
Not-
companies
not-
that call us just to come and weld, like they have somebody come and install the vinyl, then they're like, we don't have anyone to weld it. Well, who installed your vinyl? Oh yeah, but they don't weld.
That's amazing to me. I mean, we have some guys in-house that we've taught how to lay the sheet vinyl, get in it, and that's, floor prep, proper coverage, rolling, all of those types of things, even pattern matching and such. But, welding's that one next step. So we'll have another, you may have one installer that does, but when you start looking at it from a subcontractor's perspective, one crew installing, another crew coming in welding,
Yeah, man.
that's a mess.
That is. Yeah, I do.
I was just on a project last week where, we get a call from someone and they're like, hey, we just need someone to come weld inside corners on the flash cove. And I get there and he's like, we hired this other company and they welded everything. And then we were going to caulk the inside corners, but the owner was like, no, and he wouldn't take the caulk. So I went back to the installer and he was like, oh, I don't know how to do that. So I'm just going to leave.
That was it?
That was it.
Wow.
And one thing that changed my world and my life from a installer perspective was no one told me about a ride-on machine for demo, man. So the tools from an installation perspective, no one told me about that. When we bought our first one, it was just like, it was amazing.
Yeah. That's you got a whole new life when you jump on a ride-on machine if you're used to using the idiot stick to remove VCT or something.
The little red shaker box is what we used a lot before. That thing sucks so bad.
I'm surprised you can hear me right now.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
those
Oh,
things, that was like running a
jackhammer all day.
Yeah.
That's it.
so loud, and it didn't do very well either. Nowadays, there's a lot of great demo equipment. Wolf has some really awesome stuff.
Yes, they do.
Shout out to my boy Danny, my brother,
Twin.
my twin. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great equipment out there now that makes our lives easier. That's a big industry difference. I mean, I cannot tell you how much VCT I've taken up over my life by hand, and it's just not fun.
No, I remember.
And
if you get on a ride-on machine, not only are they very effective, they're kind of fun.
But I think we kind of got off on a tangent. I think we originally started talking about the whole image and everything, and then where it got off track and the subcontractors, and there's just far too many people out there that don't care about the image and don't care about the certifications and stuff like we've been talking about, and it just drags everyone down, because once they start doing that, they're also the guys that are working for a beer at the end of the day instead of to make a career. So they drive the pricing down, which in turn makes it harder to be able to run a business that has employees where you can offer the benefits that everyone else is offering.
And then focus on the training and have the dollars and cents needed to invest into yourself, into your guys, into your company.
Well, and here's a natural place for me to plug Go Carerra. I mean, the bottom line is, like, you just said it, Daniel, when you are a company with employee installers and you're trying to compete with some guy in a truck that's not trained, doesn't value the industry the way you do, and you're trying to compete against them, what Go Carerra does just level the playing field so that like skilled people are competing with like skilled people, so that you're not, a three hammer guy is not competing with a one hammer guy or a half hammer guy for the same work. And that's what Go Carerra brings to the industry. And hopefully over time here, installers will recognize that higher hammer rating equals more jobs and higher pay. That is what the data shows us over the last 3 years, and multiple millions of dollars ran across the platform is higher hammer rating, higher pay. And part of that is because obviously the higher hammer rated work is more difficult, takes more talent, takes more skill, but that's what is intended. I've said it a bunch, but you don't need a 3 hammer guy to put a carpet tile vestibule, a vestibule of walk-off carpet tile in. You need somebody who knows what they're doing and use the right adhesives and still is educated, but not necessarily the guy that's fully certified and just kicking tail, right? So getting the right people on the right project is kind of the key there. So anyway, that's our vision for trying to make sure that, like-minded, like-skilled people are competing with like-skilled people, and not this guy that's committed his life to the industry, thousands upon thousands of dollars, and tons of hours invested in his education and his certifications, his or her education, certification, trainings, with a guy that worked for somebody for 6 or 8 months. And this is the plague to me of the industry, is the guy that worked for somebody for 6 or 8 months and then goes out, thinks he's an installer, and starts his own subcontracting company. And you can't tell from Adam. You don't know. If he came and sat across from you, he watched his boss do it. He knows the name of the tools. You question him. He seems confident, or she seems confident. And if you give that person a chance, you better have wonderful oversight. I've made that mistake. I bring up a particular project all the time where a berthing unit we were doing that the guy sold me. I thought he knew what he was doing, and it was very evident as soon as our install manager got on the job and said, "Yo, this needs torn out before anybody else sees it." And we did. We tore it out immediately. But
I'm not gonna lie, we've been there. This is Mr. Promise. He used to be Mr. Promise the World, I like to say. Oh yeah, we could do that. And then it's like, dude, what is going on? And he's like, I believe we can do it.
Figure it
And
out. Let's figure it out.
Well, part of that,
we still ahead of time educate ourselves as much as we can before we start doing that. And then,
well, if you have the intent of going and getting the knowledge you need, once you land it, I remember my first Protect All job. I wasn't certified and I had no idea, but as soon as we got factory trained, we hadn't been to the training, but I knew for a fact if I won the project, I would send guys to go get trained, and we did that. So that's not bad, but I'll tell you what is bad is if you say you can do something, you don't go get the training, then you go try to do it, and you, let me change that word, mess it up to the point where it's not recognizable as the flooring it was supposed to be.
And let me go back to this promise the world thing. I was just always confident in our ability to be able to manage that task and get it done. And I was always political in my delivery. Hey, you know what? That's not what we specialize in, but I feel it's very similar to this right here. So I'm pretty sure that we can get it done for you. No, I never said I'd do it right. Never said it'd be perfect. I was very political about it. But I would force us into, hey, if you look at it, I forced us to start reading and paying more attention to everything.
to start learning about everything.
Learning about it. It was,
Well, look, that's what we're both here. I'm no different. When I was subcontracting, literally, if it was a floor that could be installed, I remember my first wool carpet job. I had no right doing that job. I had no right. Luckily, I had some mentors around at the time that were willing to help me out and and make sure that project went well. And I learned a lot and, continued to learn. But yeah, we all get in those scenarios because you don't want to turn work down, but just have the intent of going and getting the training. I'm trying to save you from what I did. I don't want you to go through what I've been through. And that's the whole purpose of this huddle, is like, maybe you'll hear something like, Jose saying that. And if you've done that, that's fine. If you have the intent of going and getting the training necessary, or at least the education necessary to install that product properly. But without the intent of doing that, you can get yourself in some pretty deep water. And I have.
With us, we're first generation too. So a lot of people, when we go to the conventions and stuff, they're always asking, who'd you learn from? Who'd you learn from? It's like, by messing up,
Yeah.
basically.
Or going back, I had let's call it the luxury of coming behind other installers and fixing unsatisfactory work. Let's just call it that. So I had to reverse engineer and then put it back together. And that's when I started finding out the do's and the don'ts. And
it's amazing what you can learn when you're fixing other people's stuff.
yeah. Now we just got to fix the industry, man. We just got to try to figure it out.
Well, just keep taking stabs at it every week here. And I know you guys and we, as well as you guys, I don't know how to say that properly there, but the point being is getting involved. We did a huddle last week. That's why about being involved and where you can stay up to date on the industry. Well, that's kind of this is showing you why right here is all the changes, everything that happened in the industry really required for you to be part of it, to stay in touch and know the new products, know the new tools. I mean, in heat welding, the different groovers and different heat welding tips and all of that stuff, that, I mean, you could be an expert in that alone.
I do, when I do classes, I estimate I carry probably around $25,000 worth of tools to these classes. So I mean,
That's just his lunchbox.
I mean, it's definitely an investment, right? But these tools are 12 years old now and they're still going strong. You got to take care of your investment. Your investment will take care of you.
Yeah. Take care of your tools, guys. There's another pro tip. Clean your patch trowel off and your bucket out before your patch dries.
We were talking about Wolf tools, and Hod has on Facebook right now. He said every time he sees new Wolf products, gets them all excited.
Danny would love to hear that. Well, new tools are, I mean, that's a guy's playground, a flooring installer's playground, I should say. I'm like, you get a new tool in one of our hands and we want to mess around with it. I got a brand new power groover this week. So that, I was like, let's see what this thing can do. It's like a part off an airplane. It doesn't look like our old one. Our old one, the blade would not engage anymore.
No.
Yeah, I think the motor, where it attaches to the blade, I think those bearings went out on it basically. We didn't have time to try to fix it, so we bought a new one. But you get a new tool in and we started grooving stuff that
just because, right?
Just because. I grooved some GTI Max for the fun of it.
Did you get one of the cordless ones?
No, I didn't get a cordless one. We got a Leicester, so
they got a cordless one too.
If I did all the personal tool purchasing, that might be, I might have investigated that a bit more, but our install manager does most of that. So, but at the same time, we had about 1,000 foot to weld. Do you obviously have a battery powered one, or do you guys?
We have one. It does not belong to us.
Gotcha. Does it last a long period of time per charge?
We have not even got a chance to use it yet.
I can't wait to hear.
It was a hey, we want you guys to use this tool, and it's been sitting on the shelves because we haven't had a job to use it on yet.
Oh,
It's more or less, I want to say, when it got sent to us, it's more or less a prototype. Check this out with what improvements. I mean,
Huh.
it's on the market now, but
see how cool that is? Just being who you guys are, you get opportunities to mess around with stuff probably no one else has even messed with yet.
it's fun. It's exciting.
What about the stubby? Let me give a plug for the stubby. Tell me about that
Okay.
one tool.
So first of all, it's a great roller, right? I actually only started selling them because I purchased them from the manufacturer and started using them. Once I used them on a job, I said more people need to use this.
Yeah,
So
game changer, guys. Game
yeah,
changer.
like I'm not selling it to make a bunch of money. I'm selling it because people should have it in their toolbox. And I got him from, his name is actually Daniel too, in Australia. And we communicated, and I purchased them, he sent them over. I fell in love, and it's actually pretty much one of the only rollers that we use now from the toolbox. It's the number one go-to roller. It's so versatile, it's hard not to use it.
Where can people buy it?
You can go to our website, preferredflooringmi.com. If that's too long, he said that that's too long, so I bought the domain pfmi.team because that's what we are as a team. So I figured that
Oh, nice.
that was a good fit.
Sweet.
My pinkies don't work, man. Typing that long email address to people, my pinkies don't work.
I get accused of it all the time. StuartandAssociates.com. It's Paul at Stuart, and then I got to tell people how to spell Stuart because they try to spell it E-W-A-R-T, and like you got to spell
Right.
it the right way. It's
And if-
U-A-R-T.
If people are watching this and stuff right now, I actually put on right when we're done here, I'll put on a coupon code. We'll do Go Carerra since that's a big part of what we got going on here. So I'll do a Go Carerra coupon code for 10% off.
Awesome. Awesome. Take advantage of that, guys. Hey, I got another. What about the difference in concrete? I think that's another big changer.
Oh,
I only want to spend a
that's a
couple of minutes here
man.
that we have left to talk about it. But
So that's
Additives change
great,
that.
right? Especially since we do resilient, and probably a lot of the hard tile guys will say it too, right? Everything, all the additives that they put in there makes everything non-porous right away. It just locks that moisture in. It's not going up, it's not going down. It's just in that slab, and you have to treat it as a non-porous. So much more work has to go into it. We did a job, Bronson Hospital, and this one just got finished up last year, where there was a bunch of Nora going down. And once we, those are the questions you ask up front. Are there any additives going in here? Yeah, this additive is going in here. I was told never to use the name because they'll sue me.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
So we were like, all right, there has to be a blotter layer. And in order for this, to hold any warranties or anything. And there's so much pushback on, well, we thought this was going to save money, and
Yeah,
yes and no, right? Like,
Well, there's so much. I've got some friends in that industry, so I don't want to talk poorly, but there's a lot of snake salesmen or snake oil salesmen in that deal where they're like, this is your cure-all. Well, there's always resulting damage from something. I mean, be honest when you sell. This going to create a non-porous slab. You may have to profile your slab to achieve a mechanical bond with your adhesives out, or whatever. But it just sold as this, oh, it stops moisture. And I think that's even debatable, to be honest. But at the end of the day, it definitely causes, well, all the manufacturers say no additives, no curing compounds, all that has to be removed. And then you put it intrinsically in the concrete mix, you got problems. And then I've talked to concrete, because I've been on the project when they're pouring concrete. You can talk to these guys. and watch them add more water to their mix as they're going on a hot day. Well, then they're adding, instead of 4.5 to 1 or 4 to 1, it gets up there at that 7. And now you have all this water of convenience in the slab, and this magical product supposed to solve the problem. I don't know, the jury's out on it. I know that Lou, as well as a lot of other really highly qualified guys in the industry, will tell you, stay away. tell your concrete, tell your GC to stay away from the additives, but they're not going to. We've had the situation come up several times, and we just make them sign off because they don't want to go through the additional cost that it would create to make it ready for the flooring. So
do you know, do the additives only affect the flooring? Is that the only thing that it affects besides the structure and everything else itself? Because that's probably why they would keep it going anyway.
I don't think it affects the structure or anything. I think it actually makes it stronger, holding the moisture in, because concrete needs moisture in order to stay together.
it does. It needs, it needs proper hydration, but it really only needs 2 to 1 to properly hydrate Portland. The problem is you'd only place, 300 square foot a day in that condition. To pour a 10 or 20 or 30,000 foot slab in a day, you have to have water of convenience, which is just water for the pure purpose of being able to place the concrete in a quicker manner. But as it dries up, you get scaling if they over trowel it. There's tons of different problems that come along with it. But as well as, a slab that does this. And
that was the other issue on this job, was the engineering of everything. They poured all the concrete, and it was a belly every 12 feet.
Yep.
So
was that
a fun job?
Was that a post-tension slab or something like that? Do you know?
I don't know the specifics. All I know is that I had to fix it.
Well, welcome to flooring. That's usually what we're here for. All right, guys. Well, we're running out of time here. I want to thank you again. Great conversation. I hope some people got some benefit out of it. If we have any chats or anything, I apologize, but we're out of time this week. We got going on some rants and some good stuff, but bottom line is the industry's obviously changed. It will continue to change. Your job as a high quality flooring installer, stay up with the times, stay involved, and be educated and informed.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Go Carerra. Did you guys get those links up yet to where they can find some training?
Yep, it's on all the socials.
Sweet.
And I believe they're building the page now, just about done with the page that'll be live on the website. So okay. Yep, sounds like they got it up. Is that on the website?
Yeah, we've got that.
Yep.
Sweet. Now they got somewhere to go in order to point them to everywhere.
Yep. Go to gocarerra.com, go to the trainings or events page and check it out. And if you have any trainings that you want to you don't see on there that you think are valuable, please email us at support@gocarerra.com and let us know of the training. We'll get it put up. And
next week there may be a gentleman on here. He's involved with the FCICA and then doing inspections and stuff. He was watching the last few, and then I think he's on an inspection today. He wanted to join, but I think he might want to actually come on to talk about what he's got going on. So
that'd be great.
I shared with him the link, and we'll keep in touch to see how that pans out for next week.
Awesome. Yeah, I would be interested to chat with him on his opinion of should flooring installers get at least some level of inspection training to know what the inspectors look for. I've always thought that might be, that would be really quality information for a guy to know what, if there's a failure, what do they look for?
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
And then on the flip side, if you are an inspector and you got questions, definitely call an installer because we've seen it all.
yeah, yeah, involve us.
I have inspectors calling me, just asking me questions like, I've never seen this. What do you think? And then seen that plenty of times, and this is what it's from.
Nice. Well, he's invited. It's awesome. And we will see you guys next week and talk to you guys here in a bit. Signing out.
All right.
Have a good
See
week.
ya.
Thank you.
See you next week.
All right. Adios.
Bye.